Hey, is everyone hearing me?
Oh my God, my
I
eyes are
hope everyone
killing
had a
me.
great weekend.
I, Cold Healing, hereby request Josh Ovale for collaboration with the Internet is Dead podcast. Please, Josh, be a guest on the podcast. We miss you.
We had a really crazy weekend this weekend, guys. We were at Funny Bar a
Okay.
ton. And actually, everyone there loved us.
Crying.
Wait a second. Is Funny Bar the name of Funny Bar?
I'm gonna start crying.
Well, do you want to talk about it at all or no?
We were at Funny Bar once this weekend. You said a lot. We were there once,
And ask
and
Cold Healing his thoughts on Funny Bar.
I'm just
World
confused.
famous, world famous New Yorker has some thoughts on Funny Bar, maybe.
I'm still confused on who this person is. Like, I've seen all the tweets, I read all the questions. I'm just still
You
confused.
read all the questions.
Yeah. So is he right wing?
Well, I guess we're gonna find out.
Well, I don't want to have him on.
Okay, wait. So you guys have got to hear our story about Funny Bar. So our friend Maddie works at Funny Bar. Samira, can you explain it?
Yeah, so
I'm trying to eat.
our friend Maddie works at Funny Bar, and before we went in, I thought of a really good game that I would recommend everyone play with your favorite friend who works at a bar or any other dining establishment. And the game was how pissed off can he get on a scale of 1 to 10 based on things we say. Did you get invited to Charlie XCX's wedding? And he was like, no.
It's
And he
like, I
was
guess
like,
my invite got lost in the
invite got lost
mail
in the mail. And he laughed
because
a
his
little.
brother was invited.
Yeah, and he laughed a little. He thought it was funny. Ha
He
ha
chuckled.
ha. He
He
chuckled.
chuckled. But okay, wait. Also, okay, no,
Next.
sorry. I'll tell you after.
Okay, next
Good.
we told him about the game, and he didn't like that. That
Well,
was
we were
when
like, yeah, we're
things,
playing a game called How Pissed Off Can Maddie Get?
yeah.
That was a 7.
That was really when things started to go downhill. The Charlie XCX thing was a 3. It was still lighthearted, and then things started to go downhill after telling him about the game.
I know that there was one point where we were like, can we get espresso martinis? And that was a
Yeah,
10.
that was a
I think we ruined his entire weekend because the next day I went to Norma's with my mom and I ran into Matt, his friend, his good friend, Matt and Maddie, good friends. I know. Would you even believe it? They have this similar name.
It's
You would
crazy.
have never predicted that. Anyways, so Matt is there with his beautiful girlfriend Lucy, and I'm like, hey, and he's walking up. He's actually on the phone as he's walking up. Guess who he's on the phone with? Maddie
Maddie.
Smith.
Oh.
And then he gets off the phone and he goes, he's really depressed right now. And I was like, I think we pushed him over the edge. And I said to Matt, I was like, yeah, like whenever we see like Maddie, like it doesn't really matter what I do. Like he just like know that I push him over the edge anytime I say anything to him. And Lucy thought that was funny. So
Wait, but why is Maddie depressed?
I don't know.
We should
Maybe
hang
he's
out with
maybe
him.
he's sad about
About
his
the girl?
brother's music
Oh,
career.
okay.
Should I
If
text him?
him and Jake came on the podcast, I think it'd be really funny.
Can I text and say you should come on the podcast?
But it might make me the most depressed I've ever been. Oh my God, I'm gonna start crying like thinking about it.
Wait, okay, hold on. I feel like there were more things I wanted to say. Yeah, so basically at Funny Bar, we were sitting then with our pitch deck out. We were editing our pitch deck for the podcast. And
Yeah.
everyone thought we were really funny. They thought we were a hoot and a holler for that. Had people coming over, checking it out, editing it and stuff. It was cool. And then my tweet kind of went viral about it. So if you're new here, if you're just coming in, hi, I'm Brittany. This is Samira. We're actually the Internet is Dead podcast,
Oh
and
my
you
God.
might have known us from our viral tweet on Twitter about Funny Bar editing our pitch deck. But we have a lot more to offer than that. We're actually talking about the internet on this podcast. Are you crying?
Yes.
I hope he
Entered the
follows me
waiting
back.
room.
I hope he follows me back.
Entered the waiting room.
I'm eating this pizza. Can you give me like 1 minute?
No, yeah, we'll all just wait. Wait for you to finish your pizza.
This is going to make it much easier to stabilize it.
Oh,
Perfect.
perfect.
Because I
This
was
is
like,
actually a great view.
Yeah, this is a good because there's the two people
yeah,
talking and people walking. It's very
yeah,
dynamic.
How do you
yeah,
know that the two people you're showing on camera actually don't have a Twitter that's
yeah,
famous
maybe,
and they
yeah,
don't show face on it? And now you're
It's
True.
very
exposing
true.
them.
Yeah. well, they could be like, important financial executives, that I'm like exposing them for, fraud or
Ooh.
something,
Yeah.
And
like
then
who's
people
to
are gonna like
say?
read their lips.
That
Hmm.
could be like the CEO of BlackRock right there.
Yeah, literally, we would never know.
We would never
Um,
know.
yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Have
thank
you
you
and
for coming
Samira met
on.
before, by the way?
No, I was just gonna say I don't think we have met.
I think I
Or
was I
maybe
was at your I think I was at
Oh,
your
oh,
ex-boyfriend
the
party.
ex-boyfriend party.
yeah,
Yeah, I
true,
was
true, true,
Okay.
true,
there. I
true,
think we said
true.
hi very briefly there.
Okay. Yeah, I
Um,
was very
yeah,
drunk that night, so I don't
yeah.
remember.
But
But
yeah, we said hi, but like yeah, we didn't talk a ton. But
Cool.
yeah,
Well,
okay.
now you guys know each other.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So thanks for coming on. I'm actually
yeah.
thinking that I'm gonna start doing intros, so I'm gonna do an intro right now, actually.
Okay,
So
sick.
welcome everyone back to the Internet is Dead podcast. Today we're joined by Twitter famous Cold Healing.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yay.
Cool. So what do you think about Funny Bar as a famous New Yorker?
Oh, Funny Bar. I love Funny Bar straight up. Yeah, I'm debating doing my birthday party at Funny Bar here at the moment. So
Do it,
yeah,
I'll be there.
it'd be
That
really fun. Yeah, I mean, like I'll let you guys know, like regardless of what the location I decide upon is. But yeah, Funny Bar is just really cute. I don't know, like there's like basically I've only been there late at night or early in the day. I've never been at Funny Bar when it's like crowded, if that makes sense. And I
okay,
feel like that
interesting.
colors my experiences on it. Like basically, I will pull up to Funny Bar like, at like 8 p.m. on like a Thursday and just like, draw with crayons on the tables. Or I've
Yes,
gone there at like
Yeah.
2 a.m. Like, I don't know. My life in New
That's
York
like a
got, yeah,
good, yeah,
yeah,
that's like
it's
the
good.
best place time to be
that
at Funny
paints it in a
Bar.
good way. I think I'm the only
Yes.
person in New York who loves Funny Bar.
Yeah.
We
No,
All
were
the
there's
just talking
like,
about
time.
it before you during the call. We were telling a
Yeah.
yeah,
story about
We
editing our
were
pitch
working
deck
on our
at Funny
pitch deck.
Bar and also harassing our
yeah,
friend who bartends there. It was awesome.
yeah.
So,
No,
cool.
I don't know. There's a lot of the scene kids are like, oh, it's dead. It's not cool anymore. But I think people love to proclaim things like that they're not cool, like when they're in like the moment of still happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of
Yeah.
like how people say woke is back. It's kind of like Funny Bar is back
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
True.
Well, I don't know if woke is back. Who's to say? But that's a
But you
separate
don't think
topic.
woke's back?
Um, I mean, I don't know what the answer
Well,
is. I mean,
let's get into
yeah.
it. What do you think?
What do I think on the
On
wokeness
if
question?
woke is
Whether it's
back.
Yeah.
still, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of what people like proclaim is like dark woke and like the return of wokeness to me feels like the remnants of wokeness, like sort of lashing out against the current cultural turn. I think it's so in like I think that the current cultural right wing turn we've seen over the past like really 2 years or so, like so strongly. I think it's really interesting. I think it kind of is unprecedented a little bit. I think a little bit when
Mm,
Trump won at first, it felt like, like a Reagan victory in the 80s. But I think it's different than that. I think we're honestly still not done culturally shifting. Like it feels to me like when Trump won, the vibe sort of broke up open that made it even more acceptable to be right wing, if that makes sense. Like I think there was
yeah.
sort of like
Hmm.
the fact that Trump won a popular vote victory. It was kind of like, well, lots of other people believe this, and so I'm allowed to believe these things too. So I
Mm,
personally think
Yeah.
that like things have shifted right further than even the election results indicate. And I think that the rightward shift is kind of still ongoing as people kind of feel out what's happening. I mean, I don't know. I see a lot more like open cruelty online. I mean, a lot of it is from the right, I think, especially, but I think people feel sort of emboldened by like the way that that they perceive other people have shifted rightward with them. And I think their perceptions are probably right that like many Americans are meaningfully more right wing than they were in the past. And so I
mm,
sort of see most of like the dark woke return of wokeness as like people trying to like either like resurrect something like the old force or like cling to it. But I think that to me it feels like flailing against like the larger trends that are like much more consequential, like just people on the internet having opinions rather than like actual returns to power or returns to cultural consensus.
mm. I
Yeah.
feel like the whatever happens like once Trump can't run anymore, like I feel like that's going to be really like decisive for like what is actually like where our
Yeah.
culture's at now.
No, I think it's very fair that it could be like a succession crisis after Trump. I think a little bit Trump could just ceremonially like coronate the next person on the right, like while he's still alive. I don't know exactly how this is
Mm,
all going to be, but I think that Trump, I don't know. I think Trump's a very important, like, I don't know. I talk all the time. I think like
yeah.
Trump's like a world historical figure, and he's already
Hmm.
been doing it for 12 years. Politics has like had 12 terms worth of importance, like he was important even in Biden's term where he was not
Mm,
like actively president. But I think he'll continue to do stuff after he's hits term limits. I don't think he'll run again, but I think very likely that he like says this person represents my vision for
Mhm.
America, and people would vote for him. Like people really love him. There's a lot of middle American people who just like love Trump. He's represented them in a way that basically politicians have not represented people in the past.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say like what it's going to look like in the future, but I think that things are going to change even more. Yeah, I don't think it's like done changing, but I don't see what is returning to be like a return to like wokeness. Like I don't really think like even like Zoran, who I think is like inarguably the most like culturally vital politician on the left, although also very like uniquely New York skewed. So I do hesitate to like draw too many large conclusions from it. But I don't think
Mhm.
Zoran's even really that like woke by traditional wokeness standards. You know what I mean? Like that's not
Yeah.
really his branding. Um,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I do want to I want to pause this conversation a
yeah,
little and
Yeah.
get like kind of where you've been on the internet just to like fill in the gaps of like also what's like informing your like
yeah,
opinions and stuff. So,
yeah,
can you
yeah.
talk a little bit about your internet background? Like when did you get on Twitter and like where did like cold healing develop into like a persona online?
Yeah. I mean, I've kind of been all over the internet. Cold healing started in 2017. I was in college and basically just wanted a place to like post my thoughts online. Um, Kind of before that, I was on like 4chan. This was like 2016 4chan. Before that, I was on like Reddit. I was on like web forums in my teens. Like I was on a lot of like young adult literature web forums in my like early
Mm,
teens. And so that's like the pre-cold healing, um, you know, uh, like places I spent on the internet. And then kind of
mm,
after registering cold healing, like 2018 or so, I started spending a lot of time on like TikTok too, trying to understand that platform because it was really interesting. Like I do sort of feel
mm,
like I've been sort of everywhere on the internet, if that makes sense. Like Twitter is for sure my home and it's like the site that I like love the most, but I do feel like
mm,
it sort of is important for me to like feel like I at least have a vague understanding of like what most people are doing when they're like engaging with the internet. Like I've also, spent time on Discord through some of like the hobbies I have and have like friend groups that
mm,
are on Discord and like I don't know. I just feel like it's important to kind of have a vague knowledge of every platform. Like Tumblr is probably my most like underverse platform. I was like
mm.
on Reddit in like the prime Tumblr years. I feel like Reddit and Tumblr were like two sides of like
Yeah.
different subcultural things in like 2014. And I was just on the Reddit side of it, even though I think Tumblr may have been the more interesting one. That's just, at that point in time, I was like a 16-year-old boy, and I don't think I was a 16-year-old boy. I was going to be that inclined to be on Tumblr. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you like grow up being like just like politically aware like from like your family or from your parents, or do you feel like that was something that happened like
Oh,
when you got
interesting.
online?
Yeah, I mean, like, I was definitely politically aware as like a child. Like, I was a really big Obama 2008 kid.
Mm.
Um, I like
Wait, and
Obama
how old are
was.
you also?
I'm 27.
Nice.
So during
Okay.
Obama 2008, I was like 10. Um,
Mm,
and yeah, the
mm,
trying to think of how to describe it. Like Obama was from Illinois, so I think that was the big reason I was like a big fan of him. But I sort of was like following the Obama campaign from like the very beginning. Um,
mm.
and I think, yeah, I mean, a little bit by like 2016, I was like a little bit disillusioned with it. Because just, like the promises of the Obama campaign that I was, so like, strongly defending as like an idealistic 10-year-old, like I was in my lunchroom debates at middle school,
Oh,
talking about,
yeah.
the Obama,
That makes sense for you.
promises. Um, and so not all those things were, achieved. And so I was like drawn to like both like Bernie and Trump as these like, different like culturally vital figures in 2016. And I feel like that sort of is a lot of where like the cold healing impulse came from. Like it was, in 2017 that I registered the account, but I felt like, very like pulled against that, like at least like politically where cold healing came from. And obviously it was also, there's other aspects of cold healing besides political. I don't even think it's a primarily
Mm,
political account, but I think that
Mhm.
that's, that was on the internet was where I became politically aware in that way. Like my parents were
mm,
definitely more like, traditional like Democrats and were sort of skeptical of like the opposition that I had to like a lot of those like ideas.
mm.
Yeah.
Wait, so what informed like your Twitter usage? Like, were you on there not really like posting heavily? Or like, do you feel like you kind of just like joined the culture like around 2017?
I was on Twitter pre 2017. 2017 was when I registered Cold Healing, the
Mm,
account.
okay.
Like I had like a real name account that I was just browsing in. Like I was following like a lot of the like Chapo Trap House people, like the Come Town people, like
Mm,
2014, 15. Um, and uh I just eventually, yeah, like just like was like, oh, I need to sort of like engage and have my own like public platform. And so I made Cold Healing and just sort of, I mean, I built it like truly from nothing. Like it was anonymous. Like
Mm.
Cold Healing was like 0 followers, did not have like, you know, like I wasn't in like Discord groups or something where people were like, oh, you should make an account. You didn't have like friends in real life that were like pumping me. Like I just followed some accounts and I just like, would reply to big accounts and eventually like built, like I got followers that way. So yeah, it was like a
Yeah.
slow process, like truly ground up like from like just like a fully anonymous account.
Yeah, that's cool because I feel like a lot of accounts you see now that are relevant, like mainly come up like in relation to other people. So it's cool that it just like built its own following
Yeah.
and like I feel like it's very clear because I know you were also telling me that
Yeah, thank you.
like your following's like a good mix like of just like people who are like very different, like conflicting opinions, kind of
Mhm.
like politically and just like in general.
Yeah, no, it's a super broad mix of people, and I'm like very happy with that. I mean, I don't really even, it's hard to describe what the uniting like vibe of Cold Healing is, but I think there is one. It's just hard.
Mm.
Like if I knew it, I would like say it all the time, but it's like hard to describe. But I think that it's very broad, and I think that's like it makes it special. I think that I'm like able to engage with a wide variety of people. I think the united like ethos of Cold Healing is trying to take people's lives empathetically. I think that so many
Mm.
people on the internet live in such angry ways, and I think that's like not very fair to you or to them to get so
Mm.
angry about like the way that someone else lives their life. And it's a little bit hard because a lot of my TikTok screenshots, people will respond to those very angrily. People
Mm.
will get very upset in the comments. And I don't really fully know how to handle it because I think in some ways they have a right to be angry. You know what I mean? Like I think they do. Like it's sort of their reaction is part of like the same thing. Like it still is culture, but I think
Mm.
it is like a cruel bit of culture too. And so yeah, I don't know. Like it's a complex question on it, but I think that that's like
Mm.
why the account has been able to like have a broad set of people who like me. Although I do sort of, as on like the flip side, have like a broad set of people who dislike me, if that makes sense. Like I have,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that just
Well,
makes it's an interesting combination. But yeah,
can you explain what like cold healing like the term means, but also just like I guess like the because you told me that you were a part of kind of the original online community that eventually became Times Square, and I was really curious
yeah,
about like what that looked like and like how like cold healing kind of was a piece in that.
yeah. So I mean, that sphere was kind of like a loosely connected group of accounts. Um, I think much more. I'm trying to think of like ways to put this that are like
Mhm.
gentle. I think like much like edgier and much more chaotic. You know what I mean? Like many of the people who are in that scene now, like some of them are like extremely successful now. You know what I mean? And have like
Mhm.
done really cool things. Um, Many of them are just gone now, and I'm sure they've like kind of gone to, live happy lives totally off the internet. And I do like
Mhm.
I genuinely wonder a lot of like what those people think about, the fact that so much of like what we were talking about online in 2000 like 17, 18 is kind of like the monoculture now. It's like the way that so many
Yeah.
other people perceive the world. Because people were a few years older than me. And I'm sure that, they're like out there with wife and kids now. A little bit, there's a book by Roberto Bolaño called The Savage Detectives, where he kind of writes about
Yes.
like this like poetry scene in Mexico that he like it's like loosely autobiographical, but he's like kind of repurposing his own life. But it's like called the visceral realist. And it's this kid kind of wanders into this poetry room in Mexico and he like finds this group of people that are they're making this like viscerally real poetry. It's like the best art he's ever seen in his life. But then like many of the people he finds out as he gets more into the community, like some of them are just like dealing drugs, and like many of these people are not the most stable individuals. And like over the next like decades, like it totally fragments. And like the main kid who's like the focal point of the narrative kind of disappears from the narrative towards the tail end of it. And it's just like these two figures that are like the really main figures of the narrative. But anyway, that's sort of like how I perceive a lot of this. You know what I mean? Is that or
Mm.
like this scene that I was in back in 2018, like it did feel very real and important to me. And in some ways now, Twitter feels more fractured into like small things that had just aspects of what I like really felt was comprehensive there. But also I look back
Mm.
on it and I'm like, okay, like many of these people were just like actual like trailer racist people. Many of these people were like, like drug addicts. There
Mm.
were some like very smart people though. Like I do think there was a lot of very cool things that came out of it. And so yeah, just like a totally different
Mm.
scene. but I do think sort of a lot of the ideas behind it prompted like especially the sort of like contrarian right wing impulse that like Red Scare like built its like kind of modern brand on. I think is like a
Mm.
lot behind that. Yeah.
Well, how did you
Mm.
see that go from like online to what it is now, like in New York?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was sort of just like as the ideology like gradually ascended, it became more like physical. I mean, I wasn't in New York at the time, so I can't really like speak
Mm.
to that like that physical like process. I mean, I know
Mm.
um I do think like Sovereign House, like as a venue, is like a big part of making it become more physical in New York. I don't know how familiar you guys are with that venue, but I think it's
Yeah,
a really
yeah.
interesting moment culturally. But I
Mm.
feel like a lot of that, like that was a lot. A lot of people who were in that scene would appear at that venue, kind of, and a lot of DC people who were sort of not really actively participating in the scene, but more like following around, and like a lot of the DC conservatives, I guess, would be kind of would show up there as well. So
Mm.
anyway, like I think that venue, like the I don't know exactly what their like funding methods are, and that's like a complex topic, I guess, to get
Mm.
into like how but that venue having, a large amount of like funding and like public parties, I think that sort of, physicalized it a little bit more. But I think also, I mean, in my experience, the internet is just getting more physical as a more general rule. I mean, maybe it's
Mm.
just my own personal life. I mean, I meet so many people through the internet. It's by far my most like, common way of engaging with like meeting new people. I think that it's like much more socially accepted now. Like when I did meet Twitter people like back in 2018, but it felt kind of like vulnerable and transgressive then in some ways to do that, Like I was still in college then and I drove to like another campus like 3 hours away to meet one of my friends.
Yeah.
And it was like, I mean, it's not like the whole day together was like great, but it was, it definitely
Mm.
did not feel like like I didn't tell my other friends from school what I was doing that day or anything, like I just drove there and I kind of just like did it and it wasn't like integrating it fully into my life. Whereas I think now,
Mm.
like right now, like I have my little sister meeting up with my friends from Twitter. Like she lives in DC and I like have her like meeting up with my like Twitter friends who I've like never met. And I'm like, like,
Oh,
oh, this is
that's so
probably gonna be
That's
fine.
sweet.
sweet.
And so like I just don't think I ever would have like felt quite as comfortable doing that, like 5 years ago. And it could be my own changes in habits, but I think that the internet as a whole is like much more like it's just become it's more integrated in people's lives. People are spending
Mm.
way more time on the internet. It's a way bigger focus. And so I think that that's kind of the reason it shifted from physical into or digital into physical more than anything else.
Mm.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. Like I feel like a little bit too is like it's kind of like the perfect storm, like all the elements coming together of like that time people like we were talking about in the beginning, like it being more like acceptable or just people like becoming more right wing and then that in
Mhm.
terms like or in yeah, connection with like then everything just becoming more physical.
Mm.
You think that there's like a connection between things becoming more right wing and becoming more physical, or what's your
Or
take on
like
it?
they both like combine together to like make like that scene like
Oh
become
yes,
like
yeah,
more
yeah.
physical. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I think the really interesting part of like the physical scene aspects of it was like these ideas were becoming more accepted, but they sort of weren't institutionally accepted. You know what I mean? Like I don't think there
Hmm.
actually was anything like that transgressive about what most people were saying, at these like right wing, New York parties. But I think that it was like it felt transgressive in
Mm.
the sense that it was not traditionally institutionally accepted. And now I think that like now that Trump has won and these ideas are more accepted widely, or at least more, culturally accepted in like middle America, um, I think that like a little bit that like the tension that underlied that of like these are somewhat mainstream accepted ideas, but also you're not allowed to say them. Um, that tension's kind of gone now, and so I think that a lot of like the scene in some ways has like a different tension now. A lot of people talk about like dark wokeness and stuff for the people in that scene. So I think they're sort of looking for like what is like the next, what's the next frontier to go into, and like I don't know what the next frontier is, but that's not
Mm.
really my goal is to find the next frontier. That's never been the point.
Yeah. Well, I know you mentioned going to like Twitter events. I'm curious also when, like when did you move to New York? How long have you been living here again?
I moved here in December of 2023. So I've been here for
Okay.
like almost 2 years now.
Okay. I know you mentioned like because I didn't know about this stuff until moving. I was like, wow, okay, I've like not because I really like got off Twitter. I was telling you this, like I was very on it like during like early Stan Twitter days and then kind of
Yeah.
got off around COVID and then got back on more so. I feel like moving to New York and like seeing how it's developed is really interesting to me.
Hmm.
So I'm curious if like because I think this would be interesting to other people like who don't know Twitter that well. Can you kind of explain just like the communities that feel like important? Like, because I've heard you and other people around us talk about like the rationalist, post-rash, like teapot
Yeah.
communities on Twitter. And I'd love for you
Yeah.
to like explain those pockets and like how you think they've like impacted internet culture.
Yeah, I mean the teapot like rationalist one is another really interesting kind of internet in real life movement. I think sort of my loose characterization of this group, people within the group might get mad at me for whatever, characterization I give because this group is very resistant for categorization. I guess every group is resistant to categorization, but like teapot, it stands for this part of Twitter,
Mm,
which is kind of not the best name for a group, but they sort of identify, I think culturally what it was. There's lots of, software engineers, other tech oriented people who during the pandemic were suddenly like cut off from a lot of their like traditional friend groups, but still had a lot of like influence. They were doing cool things. There's also a lot of tech hiring during the pandemic. So many of these people are like young people who had like they're recently out of college and they got like their first big, tech job during the pandemic. And so they sort of, start posting online, and the way the Twitter algorithm worked then was also a little bit different. And so it really encouraged these sorts of like dense networks of people to like talk a lot. And so definitely did not start in person. Definitely was,
mm,
initially a scene for online talking only. And then sort of as pandemic wound down, all these people were like, hey, like, we have like means, because people with like money, they can go travel places. They also really like their friends that they made online, like, because of like the fact you have like so much shared time together, you've like generated all these like shared cultural touch points. And so like they meet up a lot more kind of post pandemic. There's like Vibe Camp, which is like the big annual event that they do to hang out, which is basically like they get
mm,
together at a summer camp site and like just, do little activities together and like drink in the evenings. Like a few hundred people go to that. And there's also kind of small scale like teapot communities in basically almost every city in America. Like New York does have a large one. Um,
mm,
but there's, for sure like teapot as a concept exists. Like there are like teapot meetups in Chicago and in Philadelphia and in Seattle. Like it's like a pretty, large community. So that's one like I was,
mm,
I'm adjacent to it because I'm on Twitter. There's also kind of a
mm,
little bit of a similar thing with like rationalists. There's like rationalist meetups in almost every city in America, which is like they're really blog readers of this one kind of, I guess it's like two guys. It's like Slate Star Codex and um oh man, like Eliezer Yudkowsky is one of the other like blog writers that they'll read. And so like they have just like a few different like blogs they all really like, and they sort of have, like sort of intellectual salon type discussions about these like, writers, but like it's not really like the traditional canon. It's these like internet bloggers that they sort of all really heavily read, and there's like forums that they discuss on for that. So that's another kind
mm,
of online in-person scene. There's definitely overlap between Teapot and the Rationalists, but not necessarily
mm.
the whole same thing.
What is the difference between all of them?
I mean, Teapot just like they wouldn't necessarily have like a uniting ideology. Like the rationalists and the effective altruists would like the effective altruism is just like a subset of. I don't really know exactly what the difference between those two is. I'd have to like read these blogs more. A little bit, I'm
Mhm.
resistant to it because I feel like
Mhm.
to me I'm resistant because like they don't read other things, if that makes sense. Like the rationalists and the effective altruists, they're like so they just love reading their particular bloggers. And, I'm like, hey, let's like tune in and read some Dostoevsky or something. And they're just always
Mhm.
they're a little bit resistant to that. And so I'm
Mhm.
resistant to reading their things in return. Um, but um, the difference is basically that just Teapot doesn't really have that unite. Like there, a lot of them identify as like post-RAS, which is a really interesting concept because kind of like rationalism, recovery. So you think it like causes your brain to think in a particular way, and many of them view it as negative, but they sort of view themselves as like, post-rationalists, like, they're
Mhm.
no longer in that mode of thinking. So that's like but there also are like rationalists within Teapot as well, or they're like rats and post-rats, or like how they would describe themselves. And they
Mhm.
also end up being somewhat similar people. So Teapot is a
Mhm.
little bit more broad, I think, as a categorization, but definitely united on the fact that it's on Twitter. Like Teapot is specifically a Twitter-based thing, if that makes sense. Like maybe even more than like Dime Squares, because there's still like
Mhm.
Instagram Dime Square people. Teapot is specifically like a Twitter-based community. But I think
Mhm.
also Teapot is fractured in a very interesting way. Like there sort of is like the remnants of that 2020 scene, but then there's also like some like anime racist Twitter areas that like take on Teapot as a label because Teapot is like so vague as a label. And this is kind of like younger software engineers who are, worried about immigration, like H-1B quotas and stuff like that or whatever. And those people like, also use the label Teapot. So it's because it's like such a vague label. They're able to use it pretty broadly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, wait, have you been to Vibe Camp or no?
I went to the special edition of Vibe Camp called Vibe Eclipse that they hosted
So
in Austin, Texas for the solar eclipse.
so what was that like? What
When
Um,
was that also?
it was in the solar eclipse of April 2024.
Oh,
So
okay. The
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So it wasn't a crazy long
Does
time to go.
everyone tweet and they're like, "We're watching the eclipse," and they live tweet and stuff from Vibe Camp?
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly not a ton. I mean, mostly it's like you're just kind of doing Twitter in real life. Like you're sort of having discoursey type conversations.
Mm,
I mean, honestly, like I had a great time. A lot of it really is like what you make. Like it's what you make of it. Like there's no traditional programming at Vibe Camp. Like you really just wander around. There are scheduled events, but most of them are like not the most interesting things happening at the time. Like there was one that was like a oh man, what is the name of the word? Oh, healing modalities. Modalities is like the word that they use to mean like methods. These are like methods of like healing. And they had like all these different things, like whatever, like tantric yoga, like all these different ways you could heal yourself.
interesting.
And
Whoa.
they did like a March Madness style bracket to go through all of those. So I feel like that's like the most like prototypically like teapot vibe camp thing that I went to at
Yeah.
that. Um,
Interesting.
Well,
Wait.
also, I don't know if you want to talk about this either, but you also have gone to like parties in SF, like Twitter parties, right? That are like kind of
mhm,
like interesting. I'm
yeah.
like curious about those as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit, it feels adjacent because SF is tech adjacent, but SF is a little bit different. I think the one thing that really strikes me about SF internet culture and just SF in general is that SF social hierarchy is like so flat. Like you can walk into parties and there's like, very interesting and influential people just like right there. Like in New York, I think like the real celebrities sort of gate themselves off and, little like closed, parties and rooms, like smaller things. But
Mm,
SF, like the population's a little bit lower and everyone is kind of a little bit more like I do think they're a little bit more open to. And then there's also, just fewer people. Um, and so there's just like very interesting and influential people all the time out there, but also so many people in SF mediate their lives through Twitter, like just such a high density of people. I was very struck, like one of my friends had gone sort of like viral for a controversial tweet. And like she went to a party that I was at, and like this person like walked up to her and just like took like a photo with her because of her like viral tweet, like just like non like consensually, not even like
whoa.
asking her, and like just like came up and just like took a selfie with her at the party, and that like really sticks with me as just like the way
Yeah.
that like because just like it's not like in New York, I think there's some people on Twitter, but not everyone is on Twitter. You know what I mean? It's like in
Yeah.
SF, like I do think it's like literally like everyone at least in like the tech circles like has a Twitter account. Not all of them post. I
Mm,
think there's a little bit of anxiety about posting. I think in some ways because there's more people on Twitter, right? There's like more eyes. Like when I tweet something, I don't reasonably think like every single one of my friends will read it. Maybe I'm
Hmm.
just, trying to protect myself from the consequences of like my posts. But it's like I think that in SF, like way more people are aware of it. But yeah, definitely like a loosely related scene. And SF is like it's hard to even say SF teapot. Like I didn't really list it as a thing. Like there are SF teapot type meetups, but I think there's just kind of like sub communities within SF because it's so dense with people that would like identify with that label.
Mm, yeah. Are like the like Twitter communities like in these like subgroups, like are they like a newer thing or have they been around for like a while with or is it like a newer thing? Like because even like just with like everyone being on it because of tech and stuff, I'm like curious if you know like if that like just happened. Like and
It
by
does,
recent I mean
yeah,
like within like the last like 5, like 6,
yeah.
7
well,
I
those
years.
mean,
specific ones were kind of from born out of COVID, right?
yes. Yeah, I mean
Oh,
Teapot, yeah,
okay.
Teapot specifically is post-COVID.
Okay.
There was a community of people. Like I have Twitter mutuals who now would be like Teapot people who I
Mm,
know from 2017, 18. Like they were sort of in like the loose kind of anonymous discourse spheres that I was in at that time. Um, and definitely would not be like pre-Dime Square. So they really were sort of more like pre-Teapot. So there were definitely
Hmm.
people posting in that way, but I think that it was rarer. I think that like yeah, like pandemic stuff really like pushed a large percentage of people of like that specific community online. Um,
Okay.
yeah. The other one thing is really interesting, which I personally have not done a lot of anthropological work going to their events, but I have some friends who've done a little bit more of that, is like the burnerverse Twitter. I feel like this is like the new kind of like trend of people getting online. There's what I'm talking about with like burner Twitter. These are more like college kids who are like tweeting about their hinge dates from anonymous accounts, or like, New
Oh.
York, Manhattan, like lots of people who'll be like, like whatever, Lower East Side Larry type names, and they like have their neighborhood that they live in as their display name, and they'll like, tweet about what bar they're going to, but it's all, under the pretense of being anonymous. There's like a lot like,
Mm,
so like whereas the early pandemic stuff, these were like software engineers, these are much more like banking and sales people who are getting on Twitter and sort of like venting about their lives. Like these people have like traditional social lives, I think is why they identify with the label burner, because these are like accounts that are discardable. Like if they
Mm.
lost it, it's like okay because they have, their traditional social lives to return to. But they're using these
mm,
like burners to kind of like say like the forbidden parts about their lives that they're like not able to just say to their friends. Um, it's a really interesting community. I don't know. I'm not, again, it's like not like Teapot is more adjacent to my own life because I sort of work in tech, and but
mm,
like the burnerverse stuff, I think, is a really interesting kind of new community. I think it's just, to me, it's interesting because it proves that more and more people are mediating their lives through online. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I would have expected that, like, frat people, like frat bros, from Alabama are going to be like, needing like a place to like vent online about their lives. But I think that's like how it's played out, that, there's like whatever, there's parts about their lives that they can't say to their friends, and they like need to take to these like platforms to do it. And I just
yeah.
think that's like interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
It's really
yeah.
interesting, especially because I feel like Twitter to me, like as a kid, was like this place where I was like, no one in school like will find me because I'm on here. And I guess that's like a
Yeah.
version of that, but it's like no one in my school had Twitter. Like so, like
Yeah.
seeing the
Yeah.
evolution of like all types of people using the internet in that way is really weird.
Mhm. Yeah. And it still
Yeah,
is not 100% those the thing. You know what I mean? Like, I mean,
yeah,
people in my hometown basically like know that I came to New York City because of like Twitter. Like they know that I have a big Twitter account, but they like don't really care. You know what I mean? Like it's not,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
it's like it still is like not especially Twitter. I think not everyone can really keep up with what it is. I don't think it's like necessarily a bad thing that they can't keep up with it, but I think that's like kind of like it is like a blast of like information at all times, and everyone
Yeah,
wants to like, be on the cutting edge of discourse. I think it's like a subset of people, but I think that the subset is expanding over time. Um,
yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, in where we overlap socially, I'm curious like how you identify that. Like, do you identify that as like a Twitter community at all?
I would just say that it's like young people in Brooklyn. I don't know if there's a name for it, but that's like my kind of loose anthropological, like,
Yeah,
there have been young people in Brooklyn on Twitter for a while. I would guess that there's probably more people mediating their social lives through Twitter, like more young people
yeah,
mediating their social lives through Twitter than in the past in Brooklyn.
yeah.
But that's kind of my like categorization of it. And that one, I guess, yeah, it doesn't really seem super striking to me. Like that one, I think it's just been a slow, gradual process of like there were people, in Brooklyn that I knew back, when I was posting 2017, even, you know what I mean, who were like doing that
Mm,
kind of like, I don't think that it's like, that one just feels like a more like straight line thing of like, they're, somewhat like people have things that they want to say, people who, like have content they want to make, or even if they just want to like share pictures of their lives. Like I think it's just
mm,
like that impulse seems more like normal and understandable, that there's going to be like internet arts adjacent people that live in Brooklyn and want to hang out with each other. Yeah,
yeah. I,
Mhm.
I was gonna bring up a tweet that you made.
go for it. Yeah.
That was like it said like basis for a conversation, and then it listed like a bunch of buzzwords, including like the last psychiatrist, size swoon, bronze age pervert, like
Yeah.
Talon. And I'm curious if you think that is like genuinely true with the people we're around, and if you think like the majority of people, like I guess specifically in New York, are like aware or invested in this stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if the majority of people are, to be honest. I mean, that tweet is definitely like joking. I mean, I do think
Yeah,
all of those
yeah.
people are culturally vital, is why I put them in that list. Like, I was like kind of going
Yeah.
through the list, like, I did kind of like workshop it in a group chat with my friends. And I was like, who am I
Yeah.
missing on this list? And they would suggest people and be like, well, that person isn't that culturally vital or interesting. You know what I mean? Like, they're doing the things other people are doing. Like, I think for that list, the list of accounts, like Lindy Man, Landshark, those people. Like I think they actually are culturally vital, interesting creators that like inform my own
Mhm.
understanding of the world today. And like in another world would be producing arts in a more traditional way that would, have an influence on the world. Um,
Mm.
and so, I mean, yeah, I don't know if everyone is aware of the internet. The tough part of it is it's like it's so fractured, and I think I'm better than average versed in understanding the internet, but there's still so much I don't know. And so yeah, I mean, I hesitate to just be like, yeah, everyone in New York should know these things. Like it's definitely like a joking
Yeah,
thing to
I
be
thought
like,
that
yeah,
tweet was funny though.
It's also just funny because like yeah, like there's like probably like a good amount of people in New York who like don't know those things, but also just like anyone in any other area
yes,
like
yeah, yeah,
won't know
no,
those
all the yeah,
things.
yeah,
And it's
no one
just
in my
Yeah.
like funny
hometown
to
is gonna
like
know who Lindy Man
yeah,
is.
Yeah.
yeah, which is
Yeah.
just really funny.
Hmm.
Mm.
But I did also kind of just want to ask of like you being on Twitter for a long time, having existed like in a posting capacity, but also just like being on it, um, how you feel or how you feel about like the changes that have happened since like transitioning to X and also just like the iterations of Twitter of like pre-pandemic Twitter to like what it is now and everything. Um, and
Hmm.
like with it being X now, like what do you feel was lost from how it once existed? And like if you think its structure has changed significantly in allowing community to form, because I know I wasn't like super on Stan Twitter, but I know Brittany obviously was, and like I just was very aware of it as a kid and like
Hmm.
seeing how these communities formed on Stan Twitter of like just like kids and teenagers, you know,
Yeah.
like having group chats and whatever. And I'm just curious if you think that that's been lost.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very fair point. I think that there are ways that Twitter has weakened its ability to make community, I think, as a result of becoming more of like a content machine. So I think there's,
Mhm.
like Twitter, especially in like 2000, like 20, like I think is when like it's probably at its peak in terms of like teapot community making, because there were sort of these like it's very hierarchical structure, if that makes sense, which
Hmm.
may not be good for creators or may not even be good for content consumption, but it was good for community forming. Like they're sort of the hierarchical structure of having like these big accounts and then like smaller accounts that are below it, if that makes sense. Like it made it so like I would meet people who would say like, oh, we like met in the replies of Rune or something like that. You know what I mean? Like their like
Hmm.
friend group or like, like they're all reply guys of the same big accounts. And they were sort of like mid-tier accounts. And so I mean kind of now
That's
now
so
in like the
funny. Yeah.
algorithmic structure, it's um like anyone can have a viral tweet now, which is very cool, right? Like you can be a small account and you can have a viral tweet much easier. Like it'd be like, I remember for like my first few years, I like never had a tweet like go over 1,000 like faves on Twitter. I was like, oh, like I just never go viral. But it was very, very difficult because all like you literally had to have like big accounts press the retweet button on your post for anything to go viral. Like that was the mechanism that it would work to have like posts that would do well. And now it's, much more like attention based, you don't really need like retweets are not really doing anything now. There's
Mm.
like a different way to show the input of like, oh, I care about this post. Um,
Hmm.
yeah. So I mean, I think that as a result, though, it's maybe become a little bit less community oriented than it was in the past. Um,
Mm.
I mean, I'm not fully aware of this. I think I also am like getting older and I have such like large communities of people that I know now that it's like I kind of already have an overwhelming amount of people I try to keep up with. I remember back in like 2019 or so, I felt overwhelmed with the fact that I followed 1,000 people on Twitter. Like that was around the point at which I couldn't read like I used to read kind of like literally every post that my friends would post. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like I like
Hmm.
under 1,000, I think you can practically read every single thing that your friends tweet. I follow like over 3,000 now, just because I like meet people that are interesting and like I
Samira,
want to
I'm like
keep up
looking
with
at
them.
your face and you're like, no, like, because I think the idea of like reading every single person's tweet is really funny.
Yeah.
No, well, it's just like funny because I like did that on like Instagram when I would like go through and scroll and I like
Yeah,
wouldn't like stop until I like
Mhm.
read every single post, like when it was in
Yeah.
chronological order, you know?
yeah. I
Yeah.
And
was gonna
like,
say chronological order. I did that all the time.
yeah,
Same with Twitter, but
like
yeah,
honestly, I think them taking it off of it being chronological order has like saved me so much,
Yeah.
genuinely, because I feel like otherwise I would maybe still be
You would
doing
just keep
that.
you'd be keep like, yeah, it's going to the
Yeah, until
bottom.
you get to like the
Yeah,
bottom. But I'm like, but
that's
also
fair.
just no, the reason I was just thinking about that concept of like, and I know this is like so talked about, like da da da, it's not anything new, but like just that concept of like even like knowing like 1,000 people, is like a
Yeah.
yeah,
crazy, crazy
It's
thing
insane.
that our brains
Yeah.
like
yeah.
aren't meant for. Or
Yeah.
maybe they are at this point, but like it's just
No,
very
I don't think
weird.
we are meant for it fully. Like there's times where, yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of feel vaguely guilty about, even like people I know in New York. Because I do, I love so many people I meet in New York, but I worry a little bit, that my attention is pulled so many different ways. You know what I mean? Like I think
Mm.
that my social network is like broader than what
Hmm.
like anyone in human history probably would have ever had. Like I don't think that's actually like that unreasonable to say. Like maybe like some like king, would have had a
Mm,
comparable social circle. But I think that's like actually the analog of like where someone would have had like I've known as many people as like what I know.
mm,
Yeah, but that's
And
also like
yeah,
normal now. Like you're not like that's like a lot of, you know what I
yes,
mean?
yeah,
So it's like
yeah.
weird to think that that's just like maybe how we're evolving, like what
Yeah.
we're
I
evolving
mean, and I and
toward.
I think I think it's good. Like I think it's very fun to talk
Hmm.
with a wide variety of different people. I think it's really cool. Like I think, I love the combination of like Twitter plus Partyful is so cute. You can like, put together these parties where you like have, different groups of people can see each other. And like not everyone's gonna talk with everyone at every party, but like creates
mm.
this like network of people that hang out in real life and also online. And I think that it's like really, really great and really special. I don't know. Like I think that it's, a way of socialization that hasn't existed in the past. And like I'm optimistic about it basically, but I do think that it's like
Yeah.
not precedented and probably not the way we were like literally wired to exist as people. I don't know, like a lot of the like teapot people would use like the term like Dunbar's number to talk
Yeah.
about like the
Yep.
yeah
That's what I was thinking,
yeah
but I didn't want to say it.
yeah it does sound very
Nobody
like
say Dunbar's number in
No
the
one
call right
say
now.
it.
yeah
No, but it is like, yeah, it is very, very cool just to like think about like the fact that you
Mhm.
can know that many people who have different opinions and different thoughts on things and like all just exist in the same world. And it's like,
Mhm.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. The most fun
Yeah.
application of it for me is when you travel to other cities and you can pull up and
yeah,
like have other people that you like see their posts online every once in a while, you can hang out with them in their city and like get lunch with them. But also the fun part
yeah,
is then you like have a person when you're in the city that like lives in the city and you like get all these, like dense,
You just like
um
enter right into the thing that
yeah,
and you don't have to like
yeah.
find it.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
No, it
like
is like magic, it feels like.
yeah,
Mm.
it's like by
Yeah.
far the most fun way to travel. Like I cannot, like I haven't, I basically have not traveled anywhere non-Twitter related, like in the past, like basically like yeah, 4 years. I don't think I've had any non-Twitter related.
That's
Like I've done at
crazy.
least some Twitter thing. Like it honestly pushed me away from doing like a national park type vacation or something like that, because it's like, oh, there
Yeah.
wouldn't be anyone there in the
Well,
national parks that I can
it's
just
so
Interesting.
post
funny,
up with.
like seeing it become so normal for that to happen because I was a kid, like it was like a weird thing for like me being on Stan Twitter and like meeting my internet friends, and that was like it felt
Yeah.
like
How old
like
were
I
you
feel
when you
like as an
started meeting
adult,
internet friends? Like what age were you?
I think I was in like sixth grade.
Okay.
I forget how old you are in sixth grade, like nine or
12,
something,
11,
12.
12.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, 11, 12. Or maybe earlier than that. I'm not sure because I just like didn't like I was mainly like I had online friends when I was
Hmm.
younger. And seeing it evolve into what it is now is just really funny because I remember having these like very like I don't know, I just like never like processed when I was younger. It would get to the point where oh, like now I'm an adult and I can literally just go see this person if I want to, where like you
Yeah.
just don't have access to that as a kid. And like I think that as a baseline for me has been like cool to see how that just like was a childhood thing and that like was just like being a part of like being a child for me.
Yeah. But it's also like agency that came up into us in adulthood that like just sort of didn't exist for other people. You know what I mean? Like in the past.
Yeah.
Like I mean, there are people I guess who would like in the 90s would like fly out to eat their like, their like internet girlfriend. I think would be like the only thing that would happen like that. But I think it's kind of across the board, people are realizing this is like a way to socialize. Like Discord has
Mm.
this a lot too. There's like, dense communities of people that like meet each other on Discord and like, then they'll like get together and like have like rent a house for a weekend and like play games together in the house. And that's like I think that's like very
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
yeah. And so
Yeah,
I
well,
don't know.
it's
Yeah.
like weird it changing too in the sense of like yeah, for me being like the only one doing that and it's like, oh yeah, that's just normal now. But I was
Yeah.
also gonna ask, or like just bring up because I feel like I've been processing just like all of this and like just like what it's like to like get the diary of someone's life after meeting them in New York because everyone's so much more online here than anywhere I've like
Yeah.
people were not this online in Philadelphia for me. So it's like I feel like I'm processing a lot of just like how to live in that and how to like socialize in a way that's
Yeah.
so different. Um just cuz like for me again that was the baseline when I was little but like it was never people in person with me. And like when I did meet someone in person who was like in fandoms or like on the internet it was like oh you're one of me but like now it like being in New York it's so interesting and I feel like we were having an interesting conversation about this the one time when I was just saying like it's weird walking into a room and having all these thoughts about like what I already know someone as and what they know me
Yeah.
as. And
Hmm.
like it's not just like a blank slate. And like you meet someone once and then you see what they're posting every single minute of the day.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
very true. I mean, I think it's really great. I don't know. Like, I think it's really cool to have that dynamic of scrolling through people's lives passively when you meet them once.
Mm,
Yeah. Like honestly, the people that I end up not keeping in touch with are the people who are like less online, like for better or worse. Like
Mhm.
like I meet someone at a party and they're like, yeah, I don't post on Twitter. And like I'll be like, okay, like I'll take your phone number, and then like I sort of have to like remember like, oh, this person exists and like I need to text them. Like it actually is harder.
yeah.
And that might be bad that it's used that way, but that's like the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah. You brought up the like TikTok screenshots earlier, and I feel like they really pinpoint the way that like language has evolved. And I would love
Yeah.
to hear you talk about that and just like I don't know, like how you think that is like affecting things. And also like I was having this conversation recently with someone who was saying like they don't really think that there is internet culture anymore outside of like closed off Discord communities.
Yeah.
And I'm
I think
curious how
that's
you feel
wrong.
with
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's right. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that, yeah, I mean, I don't know. So one of my like sort of contrarian takes, I think that like, American culture is sort of winning globally, and there's sort of like a re-speciation of culture on the internet, you know what I mean?
Mm,
Of like, all these different subcultures forming. Um, like I do think that like the culture spreads faster, which is maybe like what they're pointing to. Um,
mm,
like I think I don't know, these are there's so many of like a lot of like the Gen Alpha memes, if you know what I'm talking about. People talk about like skibbity and like whatever, those things. Like those are really niche
yeah.
things, and they sort of like I think people latch on to them be like because they're so weird, you know what I mean? Like they're
Mhm.
like
Mm,
so like they're sort of not from the community that you would generally be in. And so they like saturate out quickly because they're weird. Um, but like I don't know, like I mean I think internet culture very, strongly exists. I think that there's, a wide variety of culture, but I think there is probably a faster um, jumping of cultures, if that makes
I feel
sense.
like
And
that guy just
then
turned around and looked at just
okay,
wanted to comment on it.
it's probably fine. I'm not
Yeah,
worried
no,
about it.
I just thought it was funny. Sorry, keep going.
It's chill. But yeah, I feel like there's probably more jumping of like, kind of cross like streams. Like, and that's like a lot of like the TikTok screenshots are, there's a lot of times where people use this like hyper online language, which I think I like gravitate towards posting things like that sometimes. I definitely
Mm,
am not trying to be like a language explaining account though. Like I think that like that there are people who do that, and I'm like glad they're doing it. It's really important that someone is doing that. But I think
yeah,
that I mean I don't know what the goals of cold healing are, but that's like it's I think you should understand the language. That's important. But I think there's like other things we have to do too. There's a lot of things that I think in terms of understanding the contemporary moment that we're behind on, but understanding the language is one of them.
yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, I mean, I know you just said that you don't know what the goals for cold healing are, but like when you created the account, did you have like a vision or an idea for like what you wanted to post and share and like, or do you have that now?
Yeah, I mean, definitely not. When I initially made it, like the first like 10 to like 50 tweets or so were like me like emo posting about it being cold outside. Like that was the genre. Like every single tweet was like about it being cold outside. I made it in March, and so it actually was kind of
Wait,
cold.
so is that where the you originally got the name from?
I mean, I was thinking about I can like the name is actually somewhat complex to explain. It like has more questions than answers. So I'll explain the name a different time. It does have a very
Okay.
specific initial meaning, but it like sort of it was just about it being like cold and sort of that like, how that can be both like hard and good for it to be
Mm.
like, cold. Like I was doing sort of like yeah, very emo like Bible verse like style. I was very like in like I was reading like the King James Bible at the time, and I was like doing like KJV style. Like, I was trying to write in that style. I was 19 at this time, but that was like the very initial
That's
post. So I
funny.
think that that impulse
Okay.
being so obviously divorced from what I'm doing now just proves that there's sort of, it's all over the place. I
Mm.
mean, I think some of the genres I'm like the most proud of are where I have like these really dense, like cultural observation tweets where I'll like write about being like a child in Park Slope, or like I love like the little like micro fiction that I write. It's like the ones I'm like the most proud of.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, like I mean, the TikTok screenshot genre, I still like work in that one because people really love it. Like it just does well algorithmically, and it does feel in some ways like still uniquely me. I mean, I know it's not the voice of the original. It's like it's not my voice. It's not literally me, but like the act of the screenshot, I do shape
Y-
it in a particular
Yeah. Well,
way.
I feel like I can feel
Um,
your eyes looking at it when you tweet
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, people just like they like it, and like I feel, I want to like give the fans what they want, even
Mm.
though like a little bit, I think there are some people who I think that I like that don't like the TikTok screenshot genre, but I unfortunately that's just it's just one of the things that I work in. I did originally, there was one
Mm.
point where I wanted to make a separate account for TikTok screenshots. It may have been like 2021 or so. Like it was before cold healing was actually big. Like cold healing, it got big in like 2000, late 2022. Um,
Mm.
Okay.
and there was a point in like 2000, because I've been posting TikTok screenshots like since 2018. Like I was doing it before people cared. Like people are like, you only do it for the engagement. Like that's not true. Like I did it before people cared. Like I was posting TikTok screenshots. No one cared. I was going in these like niche subcultures, like posting dumb stuff. And like, yeah, people just did not care.
Mm.
Um, and when TikTok itself got bigger, and I think also a little bit my voice got a little bit better at like screenshotting these things, but like yeah, around then, I had friends that were like whatever. They would just get mad at me for posting TikToks. And like I briefly had a second account.
Mm.
I think I don't remember what the at was. There's something about it being suburban bedrooms. Because I really the one thing I was really struck by, especially in like 2020, was like the like pandemic child bedrooms where like they have like the plastic vines on the walls, if you know what I'm
Oh my
talking
God.
about,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
like the
And
records
like
on the
the records.
walls.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I was so struck by those. Like I was just like, wow, this is like because it felt so like ingrained with the culture itself of this like
Yeah.
generating identity. Like that's sort
Hmm.
of like the cold healing avatar that I have of like me in front of like the ivied window is sort of supposed to be like the like I mean that really it's like real ivy in that one. Like it was like in my apartment in Illinois had like real ivy behind the window. Like the window was covered in ivy. But anyway, to me
Oh,
it's like
that's
supposed to
cool.
be in that genre, but it's like real, you know what I mean? It's not like the
Mm.
fiction of fake ivy. That's the artistic statement behind the cold healing avatar of the Ivy window. But
Wait, so you don't want to explain the name right now?
I mean like the name and it just has like a literal origins. But it's like just complex to explain. So yeah, I'll explain it another time.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I also did want to know, do you feel like there's a divide between like cold healing and you in terms of politics? Like, do you feel like you're like cold healing feels different politically than you yourself are?
That's an interesting point. I don't know. There's a little bit. I was repping like culture war arms dealer in my bio in 2022. There was like a point where Tucker Carlson did a segment that was like secondhand cold healing clips. So there was this other account, Raw Egg Nationalist is the name of the account, who would repost the things that I would post.
Oh my
And he
God.
he would use the term like adult daycare to talk about. I was posting a lot of like girls at their tech jobs. I find these very striking. It's like I think I love seeing their actual days in the life. Like it's like I do work a
Yeah.
tech job. They're fictionalizing it and making it kind of silly, but I think it's like actually like very cool to like see the way they live their lives.
Mm,
That was why I sort of, and I think it is sort of funny to think about, the ways that like jobs are sort of like not fully real. And maybe in some ways that is like the adult daycare impulse. I think they're a little bit more cruel and like spiteful about it, the right wing people who talk about it. But anyway, like yeah, this raw egg nationalist account would take my like videos and then he would repost them, and then Tucker Carlson did a segment based on this raw egg nationalist, his like the things that I was posting, raw egg nationalist, his adult daycare series. And so I was
that's
like, wow,
crazy.
like
That is
I sort
crazy.
of was a like secondhand ghostwriter for a Tucker Carlson
What
segment.
was the segment? Like, was it just showing them or?
It was just like, yeah, it was just like about like this is what's happening in the workforce now. Like this is, adult daycare is, what's happening at
Yeah. You should
Facebook
have
and all
gotten
these
like
companies.
compensated for that or
Yeah, that's
something.
Yeah,
crazy.
I mean
They low-key
it was my
plagiarized
labor.
you.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
my
that's
labor,
wild.
in the trenches finding. I mean, it was also like the girls who were making this content too. It was their labor really. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's I mean, so I felt a little bit conflicted about it then. So I think now, I mean, yeah, and I've been talking about like culture war armistice has been my little like thing I've been talking about of trying to like calm down the culture war stuff. I mean, I think loosely the things that I literally say are adjacent to my political beliefs. I think what's tough is
Mm.
that like the algorithms don't necessarily equally amplify all of my posts or all of anyone's posts, and because I think my
Hmm.
views are more broad and subtle, like people can like slightly misperceive what I believe, you know what I mean? Like if you have a
Mm,
post that like can be taken in like a sexist way, and then that post does well because the sexism is doing algorithmically well, but I'm not taking it in the sexist way when I'm posting it. Like how, you know what I mean? Like I can understand how someone would generate the worldview that like, okay, cold healing as it appears on the timeline algorithmically, because this post is shown like 1,000 times more than like, my little post about like, reading a book while eating lunch, like that,
Yeah.
if that post does algorithmically way better, then I understand like why it shaped why like their perception of me in that way, or why it even shapes, I mean, not even necessarily their perception of me, but just like cold healing as like an impact on society. So
Mhm.
I don't know what else to do besides post the things that I like. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's very difficult to kind of think about, and I feel like it's kind of just, I guess it's maybe it's not a brave thing to do, but I feel like it's kind of lame to be policing people. Like, yeah, I don't know. There was a period where I sort of like my account got really big in 2022, around like early 2023, like springish. There's some people who like were accusing me of like misogyny, who were like sort of adjacent to my friends, and I was like losing followers who were friends, and it was making me like really stressed and sad. Like there was one like post that had like over 10,000 like faves that was calling me misogynist, and like it made me feel very bad from like, oh, my real life friends could see this. Just like before I was actually like
Yeah.
any sort of meaningful public figure.
Mhm.
And so like I was just, yeah, like I had a period where I was kind of like policing in my comments. Like I didn't like post any woman in a TikTok screenshot for like over a month. Like I like legitimately only posted men. And then when I posted women for a little bit, like I had this like little like I would just like take some like painting of a woman that I liked, and then I would like, put like meme text on it that like these comments are a misogyny free zone. And I did that for like that was like a 3 month period, but like it feels kind of lame to police. I don't know what to do. Like
Well,
it's
it's
just
weird how
Yeah.
yeah,
that travels so much out of your like control too.
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you
Um,
think like your own like your following is like a pretty diverse following?
yeah, for sure. No, I definitely
Okay.
have like a very diverse following, and I
Mhm.
definitely have like right wing followers, and I think you could even argue my following base like skews right wing.
Mhm.
Um,
Hmm.
but
Yeah,
like,
that's what
yeah,
Maddie was saying because I was talking to her about you like for the
yeah,
interview, and she was like, "Yeah, I feel like her perception of you was that you're a centrist, but cold healing leans right wing. I guess in terms of like the following."
yeah. I think that's a fair assessment of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I don't really know if
yeah,
I define myself centrist, but it's whatever. People can define me. I'm like, I just have my own beliefs, and people can define them however they want to.
yeah.
Yeah. I did I remember one of the things I wanted to ask that I didn't ask. This is like going back like to like kind of just
Mhm.
your internet background, but I did just want to ask because I'm curious about it. With like just like being like on like I'm just like very curious about like the algorithm and the rabbit holes that like guys like fall into on like 4chan and like Reddit and like all that stuff and like us talking about
Yeah,
algorithms on Twitter now. I'm just like
yeah.
curious if you had any experience like just like what your experience with that was.
Yeah. I definitely think there were ways that I was like, algorithmically radicalized down the right wing pipeline as like an 18-year-old male. I think that's a reasonable
Mhm.
assessment. I think that I was sort of like smart enough to like blast through it quickly, if that makes sense. Like I think I
Yeah.
actually kind of like speed ran the right wing like pipeline. There's some like things that where I was like posting things in like group chats with my high school friends, in that like summer 2016. I don't know if I probably should have said some of those things, we're like debating politics and stuff, and I may have said, but like I think I sort of like speed ran through it basically, where I do think it's real. I think
Mhm.
um, it's like this sort of gradual like step transgression. I think is why it really appeals to like young men, is you sort of, like can very quickly be like, hey, like I think, some of the initial stuff that really like spoke to me was like, like hey, like some of the stuff that like Islam says about gay people is like, quite cruel. And that's like not the way the left would frame, immigration. And so like reading
Yeah.
stuff like that as a young person, I was like, maybe they're making some points, but then you can very quickly kind of like spiral down, like the kind of like a lot of people do. Like these were like I was reading like Breitbart type stuff at the time, which sort of like, has those like entry level things, then it, spiraled a little bit like more. Um, yeah, so I mean, I think the short of it is, yeah, like sort of speed ran the alt-right pipeline in like a 6 month period, in like summer 2016,
You
basically,
beat the
which is yeah,
alt-right pipeline.
yeah. I mean, it's not very hard to beat. Thing is like the reason it actually doesn't scare me that much as a concept. I think like most people do beat it, if that makes sense. Like it's
Yeah.
pretty hard to stay in it forever. Like it's just as boring. Like there's only so many times where like you can like push the boundary and like like say the N word, like say you love Hitler, but then it's like you do it once and it's like, okay, like what else is there?
Like
You know
what's
what I
next?
Yeah, like you like
Yeah.
there's just a logical point at which you like push it to its end, and then you like have to live the rest of your life. And so like basically almost like every young male that I've like met who's like gone through that sort of pipeline phase like is like more normal, like, and I think that I see men that are in it now, and I'm like, it does scare me, I guess, that I think dumber people get into it now, not to be, pretentious about it, but I think like I
Yeah.
talked about like
Mhm.
Instagram reels induced racism as kind of a Twitter timeline thing. And I don't think the problem is like, I mean, I do think that whatever, saying racist things is bad. I don't think you should do that. But I think that like it's they're they just are they actually kind of are not equipped to deal with everything. They don't have quite the resources to get out of it as quickly. They're gonna spend more time in it, and it's gonna be more painful for them. Like I do think it's a painful place to be. Like I wasn't like
Mhm.
happy as an 18-year-old when I was like thinking these things. Like I don't think that it's
Mhm.
yeah. I just think it's like it's just worse for them basically. So it's like its own punishment, I guess, is like the one like silver lining of it. I think it's bad for the world too, but it's also its own punishment. So yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, it's
I saw when I was researching that your name had been on like some flyers with like Ramelia and like just like other like edgelordy right-wing people, and
Yeah.
I saw it was
Not yeah.
critiqued by like Danielle Chulosky in a write-up, and I was curious like what you thought about that, like just that like criticism.
Yeah, I mean, I was on the Ramelia. That was literally just last week. I was on the fly.
Yeah.
I shot the
Well,
the
I
the
don't know what the
Ramelia
thing was
party.
that Danielle wrote about. Like I
Yeah, she
forget,
wrote
but
about the Welbeckian party, Welbeckian
yes,
e-boy
yeah.
party.
Yes.
when
Um,
was that?
it was a party at Sovereign House. There's kind of like so there was the Hegelian e-girls, if you remember the Hegelian
Hmm.
e-girls, and so the Welbeckian e-boys was sort of like a like parody event, but also just sort of like a literal Welbeck party. Like people like I read like a like one paragraph of a Welbeck book. And other, but most other people like read writing about Welbeck that they personally wrote. I really don't care that much to
Mm,
like read my own writing. It doesn't like bother me. I don't think, yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it was also just like it was just a party at Sovereign House, basically.
Mm.
Okay,
Um,
yeah.
and so I don't know, like I mean, to me, I think the cold healing brand is start like I was on the Hegelian Egro flyer as well. Like they sort of half asked me if I wanted to be on the flyer, and I said yes without understanding what they were putting me on, but they put me on the flyer. I think the cold healing brand is like anti-fragile enough, but I don't think it actually matters if I'm on any controversial flyers. Like I think that people just know that I'm in a lot of places. Like I'm also, have written for mainstream publications and
Yeah.
like been quoted in New York Times as cold healing. So I think that it's just, I genuinely don't worry about any of these brand association things.
As a final question, where do you think
I know. Oh,
Oh, what?
no. I was gonna say something and then I like never mind.
Say it. Say it. Speak on it.
No. I was gonna make a joke, but it like wasn't funny.
Say the joke. Tell me
No,
the joke.
there's no joke. What
Well,
do you think
now it's
about
just awkward as
Twitter
fuck.
Twitter evolving?
Yeah, Twitter, what do you think about Twitter evolving? Final question. Thank you.
Is that what you were gonna ask as your final question?
No.
Oh, oh.
No, I wasn't gonna ask that. That would be stupid.
What do you think about Twitter evolving? What do you think about Funny Bar evolving? What do you think about New York? Do you think it's gonna go underwater?
Do you
New
think
York,
the
the
whole city
city.
is gonna drown?
Yeah.
Um,
I had a dream that that happened.
Really?
Well, okay, wait, did I not tell you about this dream? Who wants to hear my dream real quick?
I want to hear your dream.
So
Yeah.
I had a dream where we were in like this, it was like me, you, Samira, and
Us three?
no, like sorry, I was like trying to say
Oh.
like you, so, like, and then I was like Samira to specify who you
Yeah.
was.
I was gonna say that'd be really
Um,
cool if all three of
Oh
us were
yeah,
in
that
a
would
Yeah,
be
that
dream
featured in the
cool.
dream.
together.
Yeah.
You haven't been in my dream yet, but maybe after this interview. I sometimes recently, this is how fucked up I am. Like I had a dream that I like met Cody Ko, and in the
Oh
dream,
yeah.
like Cody was like standing there, and I was like, Cody, would you ever want to like speak on it on the podcast? Like we'd like run a podcast, like where we like talk about internet culture. We'll like be so nice to you on it.
Mhm.
And
Anyway,
he
so I'm like,
said
I'm
no.
going crazy. Well, I was like trying to get him before he walked out the door. It was like this whole nightmare scenario where he was walking out the
If
door.
Cody Co
Anyways,
wants on the podcast, we're not putting him on the podcast.
I would put him on the
I'm
podcast.
setting
Let's
a
challenge
boundary.
him.
Setting a
We'll challenge
boundary.
him.
Then we're
Anyways,
never getting Tana. Anyway.
so my dream about New York drowning. So it was me, Samira, our other friends from like Philly, and we were like standing in this field. It was like a college campus in New York, and it was like way more centralized or like just like a huge like it was like a really big campus that like reminded me for some reason of like what's it called? Longwood Gardens. Like have you guys ever been there? Like the
Yeah.
campus felt like that big and there was like a bridge with like a river underneath it and it was like big and beautiful and like there was like this whole quad area with like a football field. And we're talking about like for like I think we're like supposed to be like teenagers or something in the dream, and then and then we're talking about how like being in school in New York is just like so like we're like wow, it's so weird how we go out and it's like oh we're like adults and then you're like put back in here and it's like we're in this like weird like it's like kind of like regressing and then like someone like said that point and then someone else was like yeah that's like really true and then I hear like someone from the distance yell help and then Marielle is like you stupid bitch to the person who's yelling help and then a building falls down and then I cover my mouth and I start crying because I'm like oh my god there's people dying in the building and they're dying and then everything falls underneath us and we fall into water and we have to save ourselves from drowning because the whole city is going underwater because there's a dock actually and we're standing on the dock and then you fall into the water and then as we're falling Samira's like grab Mackenzie because Mackenzie Thomas in my dream universe doesn't know how to swim and I swear to god this happened in other dreams before so yeah it's cool.
Wow.
Wow. I
It
think
could
I just
happen.
got like sick from hearing you sing. I think I have a
Yeah,
fever now.
yeah, me too honestly so cool yeah you think that's gonna happen or no.
I don't think so. I think New York is going to stay above ground. I think there's a lot of reasons to keep it here. I think we're going to try hard too, even if,
Yeah.
even if even if bad things happen. I think New York though, like we care about it enough to keep it alive.
I agree with that. I think that my dreams were just, out of anxiety, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to try psychoanalyzing the dream?
Me personally,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why do
um,
you think that she had that dream? What do you think it
I don't
means?
know. I have a lot of dreams about water too.
Really?
I feel like water is a very like dream-like force. Like it's very purifying. Yeah, I don't know. New York is actually, I mean, we are like near the water, but we're kind of not there. So I wonder if you're sort of
Yeah.
like craving like the cleansing flood or something. That's kind of my
Well,
that'd be
there's
my
like, yeah, we're surrounded by water, though. So
yeah.
maybe I'm just sensing that.
But we're not surrounded by like, water that you like feel, you know what I mean? Like no one is out there
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
East River, no one is out
Yeah.
there, in the Hudson.
Yeah.
We could be
Yeah.
out there.
We
So,
We
could.
could. Actually, I sort of that's like my, whenever we get to like post supercomputer utopia, like that's what I'm most excited for is when we like clean the East River and the Hudson River and you can just like swim to Brooklyn, like you're in the
oh
East
my God,
Yeah.
Village and
that'd
it's
be
just like
Honestly, that'd be
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna
Uh,
be sick. This is what like OpenAI is gonna do for us. We have to believe in them. Yeah,
so.
yeah, that's something to look forward to, honestly.
yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks so
thank
much for
I
having
you.
me. This is a
appreciate it a
very fun
lot.
conversation.
It
Yeah,
was
thanks
so
for
fun.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
so fun talking internet culture. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hope that we get to meet soon in person
You
Yeah.
guys did meet,
soon.
but at the ex-boyfriend
Again,
party, but
again,
maybe at the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
like have a
ex-boyfriend party.
conversation in
Yeah, yeah.
person.
Maybe the
I love
funny bar birthday when it drops.
Yes,
Oh
If I
funny
get
yeah,
bar
this
when's your
permitted.
birthday.
birthday?
I'm so
Um,
on board for that. Yeah,
yeah.
what's
It's
cold
it
healing sign?
it's in October. I'm a Libra. I'll give you guys the exact date. I
Yeah,
don't
give
want to
us.
birthday
Yes.
docs on the pod
Okay,
here,
okay,
but
yeah.
yeah, I'll give you guys the birth. But yeah, I'm a Libra, October
Okay,
Libra.
cool.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
And also we have one more thing. We have all of our guests request this internet guy who we like. If you don't mind repeating something, we're gonna send it in the
I
chat.
just sent it in the chat.
Okay. I, Cold Healing, hereby request Josh Ovale for collaboration with the Internet is Dead podcast. Please, Josh, be a guest on the podcast. We miss you.
Thank
Yay!
you. Yay. Okay, we'll see
Cool.
you at the funny bar birthday.